what's funny is I remember you overseeing conferences and stuff like that.
Yeah, I went on and national GETAC. Yeah, that's what I give Jeff a hard time. Yeah. Like very I'm telling you that. I mean, it's just, you know, I look out here. When I look at my dog, I've got a
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what you got.
but it's just interesting to see where we go. After all that.
Yeah, but it's still, what I like is it's still kind of the same family, you know. You look out in the audience and you see the same people.
We have a home place. We inherited it. My wife from Government County, rural community weekdays. I call it the weekdays. Here. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call the Governor's EMS and Trauma Advisory Council Education Committee to work. Roll call. Jody Hardwick here. Jay Cloud. John Creech.
Here.
Robert Gonzalez. Jeff Hayes.
Here.
Greg LeMay. Lori Lefevers.
Here.
Taylor Radcliffe.
Here.
Oscar Salazar. Lance Billers. Kelly Weller.
Here.
We have 6, so I guess we do have a quorum. But we've got some key people missing. I don't know whether they're stuck in traffic or some of the things on the agenda and some of the assignments are actually given to some of those people who are not here today. I knew about 2 of them, that the others we weren't, so good morning, everyone. Committee met on April 4th here in Austin. Had a pretty good turnout. I think we had 26 people there. We really appreciate you all being here. During that time period, the committee observed a moment of silence for the victims of the Fort Hood shooting. As we keep looking at our jobs and keep seeing more terror and more trauma and more injury and illness in front of us, we just had to take a moment to think about those that we've lost. We have 3 agenda items today. 2 of them are somewhat tied together. Number 1 is considered National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, EMS education competencies for standards for AEMT, Advanced Emergency Medical Technician, that were adopted in August of 2012 for Texas Intermediate EMTI training in Chapter 25, Texas Administrative Code 157.32, and how it affects the practice of currently certified EMTIs who initially received the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration 1985 or 1999 I-85 or I-99 curriculum for EMTI meeting. Number 2, which was very close to that, was to find the additional or alternative training that's required for Texas EMTI, either I-85 or I-99 transition to AEMT, as required by the National Registry of EMTs. I'm going to ask part of this belong to Mr. Hayes. Mr. Hayes?
Chair, thank you. My intent when I brought this to the committee was to make sure that we communicated to all the educators across the state of the difference between an I-85 and I-99 here in Texas and then what's required for National Registry. And based on personal experience here in Austin, Travis County, we experienced a rude awakening about 6 to 8 months ago. We have a bunch of I-85 folks coming up for renewal and found out that they had to basically take almost a near refresher course plus the fact of having to test skills and a written exam in order to become an advanced EMT. We polled some of the providers that we were medical direction for here, and I would say greater than 60% of those individuals did not know that requirement. So I went on a personal research to find out how easy it was to find that information, and was educated very quickly that the National Registry doesn't put that stuff as obvious on their website. I had to dig about 3 pages into the website and then had to actually look for a lot of stuff to get that. So I felt like that if I had to work that hard to find it, and I'm pretty familiar with most of that stuff, I thought, oh my gosh, most of the providers in the state of Texas probably are having as much or more difficulty finding this information out. Of course, I look across the crowd, everybody's looking at me like I have 3 heads and going, Jeff, you probably should have known that a long time ago. But I digress. When we talked about it during the work session, there were a few people that didn't know it as well. So my whole intent was to make sure that our educators across the state know what the requirements are and the differences between the I-85 and an I-99. So what I would request from DSHS would be if we could put a National Registry link on their website that links directly to those documents so everybody can find them, because they're not easy to find on the National Registry's website.
Thank you. When anyone comes to the mic, they ask me to tell you to be sure and speak directly into the mic. And our thanks to TTAF for broadcasting this, and for everyone to hear it at home. Have to be close to a microphone. State EMS Director, Mr. Smeater, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, sir.
Good, good. Request from Mr. Hayes, would that be possible? I guess part of the thinking is that when new things come up from National Registry, sometimes we just don't know, and it's not from lack of looking. Sometimes it's just, if there are changes, can we put a link or new things from National Registry or new things for education, so when something pops up, people can go to one spot and get it?
Sure, that shouldn't be a problem at all, and that's the whole purpose of our electronic newsletter too. If you look down the right side, there's a lot of quick links over to certain things, even to our own website, because sometimes it's easier to look from our newsletter to go to our website than it is to try to find stuff on the website, even though I will say staff has done a great job on updating our website. If you haven't been there in the last couple of weeks, you need to go look, because it's gotten better, but that link makes sense to me. We should have a direct link right to the National Registry all the time right now anyway. So, yeah, not a problem. We'll have it done next week.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Would you be willing to do a newsletter article that highlights this for all of the state? Just a blip in your newsletter?
Yep. So the whole purpose of the newsletter is we usually put a paragraph or so and then link them off to some other website where they get more of the details. Yeah, we're going to be putting out a newsletter again, probably like around July 1. So, yep, we can put an article on that. No problem at all.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, anything else on the recommendation? Any public comment? Okay. Moving along to item 3, review the community health curriculum for advanced practice paramedic and advanced community paramedic, and consider recommendation for its adoption in Texas. I really want to make sure that there are 3 things that we make perfectly clear. We did in our other meeting and want to do the same thing today. The meeting that we had on April 4th, and I want to thank Phil Lockwood from Dishes. Phil was there, and it's always nice to have a Dishes rep, because sometimes we just have questions that we can't answer, and Phil did a fantastic job of fielding some rather tough questions, and gave us some rather tough answers, but that's okay. We got the answers, and we can work toward that. So, Phil, we're going to ask that we want you as our permanent liaison, okay, if at all possible, for all of our next meetings. One is that the April 4th meeting was the first meeting in what we anticipate will be a 2 to 3 year process. I think the way some people interpreted the agenda item was consider its adoption in Texas. I think some people thought we were going to make that recommendation on April 4th and say, here it is. And I can tell you that's farthest from the truth. We have so much to take a look at. There's a lot of data. There are a lot of advanced practice / advanced community programs already out there. Some in the state of Texas, some in other states. And we've been compiling as many of those as we can. Jay Cloud, who was the primary on this, is not here today, had been working with Kelly Weller. And let me also stop and congratulate, it's not just Kelly Weller anymore, it's Dr. Kelly Weller. So congratulations. They took the lead on this, and have started the first group. We will have stakeholder involvement from EMS, officially from hospitals, providers, durable medical equipment, insurance companies. This is a long haul. I don't want anyone to think that, yep, we're going to adopt it today and we're moving forward. We aren't. I can tell you from some of the polling that's been done for the hospitals to look at some form of, and what we call it right now, we can call it whatever we like, whether it's advanced practice or advanced community or whatever. This is something that the hospitals are behind us 150%, because they're looking, if you can bring us less patients or you can control that patient population from coming back over and over and over that you're not getting paid for either, and you can be paid differently, they are certainly 150% in favor of this. I think it's also, too, one of the first times that we have an opportunity to get reimbursed. So many times we have state unfunded mandates, national unfunded mandates. Well, this one appears that with some work on our part, can actually get paid for some of the work that we do. So I'm really, really excited about that. There are, as I mentioned earlier, several documents out there. We have several communities that have already started certain things, and we're going to ask those people who already have some. We've already reached out to Fort Worth and McKinney and Washington County and several other places to say, hi, you guys have some things already in place. Let's just take a look at what you have. Let's take a look at what some other states have done. Let's figure out what our parameters are, and then start to try to put something together to bring back to the education committee meetings. So at our next meeting in July, we probably need to go to, that would be our third meeting, but actually just our second work group meeting to figure out and look at the data that we have. Kelly, is there anything you want to present? Because I know you and Jay had been working, or still too early?
It's really still too early to say too much. I think that we're working on, like you said, pulling in the data, figuring out. I know that Jay has sent out an email to quite a few people to gather some constituency and get a work group together for this, and that's where we are so far. Okay.
I want to see as many people at the work groups as we possibly can. I mean, from all walks, whether you're, I don't care if you're an ECA or an EMT or you're a hospital, you're a private, you're 911, you are fire-based, you are whatever, because we want to have everybody's input on this as we go down this trail. I think it's probably one of the ones that just haven't seen in a long time that's really going to allow us to expand the role voluntarily. The second thing is there's no intent from this group to say everybody has to do this and this is where everybody has to go. Not at all. I think as we have advanced in this occupation/profession, if you notice, for many, you can actually top out in 2.5 years. If you go to a program, get your associate, get your licensed medic, and pretty much you topped out as far as the mainstream goes. Certainly we have all the alphabet courses that you can add. We add CE, but I think here's just another opportunity for those who want to, and for those who want to do that voluntarily, or it's something their departments want them to do. It's certainly an opportunity for growth. And the third thing is that this is going to take some time. We don't have a big rush. Certainly, I think if you don't put a time frame or an end date, we could let this go on indefinitely. And I don't think that's the intent of this committee or the work group that was formed, is to make sure that we have a time frame that we can take a look at bringing products back to this committee. And then when we finally finish in this committee, to take it to GETAC and then to DISHS and get their review. So I anticipate this is going to be, as I said, 2, 3, possibly even 4 to 5 year process to get this done. If the one thing I do know about EMS personnel, and I've said it before, if we have to get something done, or if I have to be trapped on a deserted island, this is the group of people in this room I want to be trapped with, because I've watched us in the past do some amazing things. I know that in this room, if we were all trapped on an island, somehow we take a coat hanger, some batteries, and duct tape and make a nuclear reactor, and somehow fund it, make it work, and make it go. Because I've watched us do it. So, if it's something that we accelerate because you guys want to do it, or we've got some great thought, or there's something out there that we want to use, absolutely great. Over the next few meetings, we would like to have some product of involvement from outside constituents, i.e. hospitals, DME companies, by November, and looking at a February meeting of probably having the first document that we can take a look at one of our GETAC meetings, and then move that document forward. Committee comments?
I think as part of the process,
Pull it just a little bit closer so they can.
what escapes me, and I still have a hard time wrapping my head around what a community paramedic is, and we're going to work at establishing that. But I think the other piece that I'm equally or less educated about is the financial piece. And so I have lots of agencies that contact me and go, hey, we hear about this community paramedicine thing. We heard there's some money tied to this. We may be able to pay for some programs and things. So as part of our process, maybe we champion someone to be our financial person who can actually be well educated and versed on readmission penalties for hospitals and how those hospitals can help fund our efforts and teach us those things. Or maybe I just don't understand things I should understand, but.
I think that's just one of the many pieces of this that we have to flesh out. I mean, we might get to the end of this and go, no, not what we thought it was, and that's one of the things that this group that we've talked about in Austin earlier was that we want to vet this completely and not just say, hi, here's something, throw it out there, take it or leave it, so that things like that are actually uncovered. So yeah. Public comment.
Chair.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to weigh in on that is I think it's a yeoman's effort to go after pursuing the community paramedic. Where it's going to start basically is the people that's in this room, and I'm not talking about this table, I'm talking about our educators sitting in the crowd, because there are so many definitions of what a community paramedic is that it's unbelievable. Because I could tell you in Fort Worth it's not the same as it is here in Austin, as it is in Wake County, North Carolina, to any other locale. The important thing is there's a baseline set of education. And one of the things I would ask the educators in the room is if you start looking at offering education for these types of programs, research your community needs first. Please research your community needs first before you step out and start offering some type of curriculum. There is reimbursement. You can start with the 1115 waiver money that's out there. There's some other reimbursement things, reduce recidivism in the hospitals and stuff like that, but they're specifically focused on certain disease processes and not just a blanket reimbursement because you reduce readmission rates. So I just encourage our educators, if you're going to do this, is go to your communities that you're teaching in first and see what their needs are before you step off the deep end, because I'd hate to see you drown in your program, not be successful because you don't meet the needs of your community.
Absolutely.
And I would just encourage, I would encourage everybody, excuse me, to keep an eye on the national. There's a lot of activity happening nationally on the same issue. As we wrestle with it in Texas, just about every state is wrestling with it. I do sit on a committee with NHTSA, and we're trying to set up some kind of baseline for this program for a community paramedicine or integrated healthcare or whatever name, EMS, community EMS, whatever term someone's using. But there is a tremendous amount of activity at the national level on this, and I think there'll be some basic stuff come out later this year or early next year, too, that should help focus this. But I think Texas is in a good position that we have some of the best leaders in this program in Texas right now running programs within our state. And we're in a different position because of our laws allowing us with the delegated practices than most states are, where they're state-driven and they have to change laws and things like that. But I think it's an exciting time for EMS. And Jody, as you said, that in some cases you hit a plateau and you can't go anyplace else. This is something else that we can do as you get older in the years. And I can tell you from personal experience, at the age of 55, it gets painful crawling in and out of cars a little bit. And there's got to be something else.
You know, and I think from a lot of people, Joe, that's been part of the excitement is, oh, not only is it something else, but it's something else that has funding. It's something else to give me another standing. It's something else to add to my repertoire. Sure. And as you do get older, you know, there are certain positions and certain things and knowledge and background. If you've been assessing patients for 15 or 20 years versus 3 to 5, you might have a little bit better grasp. So, yeah, absolutely. Again, I want to go back. The time frame for this, there is no time frame. This is a long, long process to get done with a lot of input from a lot of people. So there won't be any decisions made on this today or this year or even next year, as long as the process takes. Any public comment? Come on up and speak into the microphone. Good morning.
Norman Seals, Dallas Fire Department. I applaud y'all for taking on this project of trying to determine a standard curriculum for this practice. You're correct. Every area, we actually started a program in Dallas, modeled somewhat after what MedStar is doing, but also pulling pieces from McKinney and other places around the country where we research. Very excited about what's happening already for us in Dallas.
Yeah.
Is that better? Go ahead. I'm assuming it's on. I'll just speak a little louder. How's that?
Thank you.
Okay. The definition of what a community paramedic is, you are correct. It is very community specific. So I'd be very careful moving forward, and I'd love to be a part of the work group moving forward on how we start setting up what the state curriculum should look like. I know Collin College in McKinney has got a great program, or what appears to be a great program, that we're going to be sending some people to. But it's so much variance between how this is done area to area right now. And I think you could find a good common curriculum that would meet either super rural to urban to meet the needs of everybody. And I think there's definitely some ways to make that happen. I don't even know if it would take a full 2 years to make that happen. And I think maybe sooner rather than later would be better, because this is a very hot topic. I actually am also chair of the EMS committee for Texas Fire Chiefs, and this is a very hot discussion for our group right now, and we're trying to educate fire chiefs around the state on this is an important program, along with a lot of other things that we as fire chiefs need to really be aware of, that for those of us that have EMS agencies. So I do applaud you. One area of concern that I would have is I think we ought to define the difference between advanced practice medic and community paramedic. In my mind, they're two separate things. I know in my system in Dallas, we're so large, it's hard to really turn morphine loose with all of our paramedics and keep them trained and their skills up to a certain level. So in my mind, an advanced practice medic is the one that can do the very top end paramedic allowed skills. Community paramedic is a whole different role in my mind, in that it's one that goes into home and starts trying to figure out what's going on with a patient from a medical and a social mental areas, and identifying their needs, and then identifying community resources and bridging the gap between the two, along with working with the hospitals on their readmission piece. And that's really more of a patient navigation model, as the MedStar folks call it. And so I think that definition may be very important for us to distinguish moving forward, and then working to build that curriculum. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Chief, we will make sure that you're on that particular work group and know when they're meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Will you please get with me after so I can get your email address?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You know, and this is the kind of stuff that we're looking for, because certainly everything can't be APP or ACP. There's certain therapeutic modalities, whether it's congestive heart failure, diabetes, or, you know, whatever you're on in your community that you're trying to focus on. Whatever we end up with, I think, has to be the base. It can't be the ceiling. It has to be the base. And I think if you look at most of the curriculum out there, that's what communities have set. This is their base to say, this is what I need people in Dallas versus McKinney versus Fort Worth. to do. Dr. Malone, I see you sitting there because I know you have been working really hard on yours in Collins, so if you'd share with us, that'd be great.
Sharon Malone. Okay, is there an on-off and I just don't? Am I on now? No. I have a green light, but it's here.
Hold on. Here you go.
Oh, good. Now I get to move around. That's my favorite thing.
There we go.
Moving around. Sharon Malone from the area up in Dallas and also now associated with Goliad County. I want to just tell you that advanced practice paramedicine and community health paramedicine is almost one and the same. Hey, Taylor, I'm so glad to see you. And I look at it like this. What we don't want to do is say they're going to be out there, that all of these guys are out there suturing and doing all these higher level procedures. That might be necessary in a really rural area, but that's an individual, like Chief Seal said, that's an individual decision. However, the knowledge of how to treat those patients at home is an advanced practice of paramedicine in my mind. So what we've done, and I brought my notes up here, and I just want to address some of the things you said, Jeff, because I agree with you vehemently. We need to know what the community needs. So there's certain things like CHF, COPD and asthma, diabetes, renal disease, and actually behavioral disorders. And if you look at the repetitive patients that we see over and over, those are sort of the categories that are there. What our paramedics need to learn is they need to learn the pathophysiology. Because if you're going to follow along, you're going to be involved in the health care of the patient on a long-term basis, you must first go all the way back and remember how you assess a patient. You know, physical assessment, getting the right history, to me, that was the footing and the core of beginning. How to do an abdominal exam. We're in ambulances, guys. We're not usually, right, doing all of those things. However, physical exam, the history, how does the history relate to the patient's problem? And then knowing how to speak in the physician's language, because that's who you're interacting with. And then being able to understand those core concepts. So it's cardiology, it's pulmonology, it's nephrology, it's endocrinology, and it's behavioral health. And so obviously one size does not fit all, not only in Texas but everywhere else. So that's what we did, was strive for the basis of how do you have a paramedic going into the home, following longitudinally, following the patient, communicating back with the physician who's driving the program, whether that is the patient's own doctor, consulting with the patient's own doctor, with a committee inside the hospital. In certain cases, they don't have doctors or they don't really have people that can follow them. And that's why this isn't really home health either, because they're not even going to be able, some of these people, to be tied into home health. So I just wanted to sort of say those things to you, that we need to concentrate on what is the actual core of knowledge that the medic has had at one time, but at a thinner layer of leveling. And then let's teach them what they need to know to essentially, on an ongoing basis, assist those patients. Thank you.
Dr. Malone, would you think that,
check.
and I think every program looks at this, I just don't think we've probably done a lot about it, is that we have provided the patient with two options in most cases. Number one, you want to go to the hospital or press hard 3 copies. Okay? This is that gap to say there's something else that we can do for you besides that. And maybe some of those skills, certainly more pathophys, because we have to figure out the gaps too. It's going to be different if Mr. McDonald is at his home. We come and this is the 12th time he's called in 2 months because he's run out of his meds. If that medic can somehow see his or her way to go, you know what, let me contact your physician and let's see if we can get this prescription for you by mail so it comes to your mailbox instead of going to the hospital. Now that's a completely different skill set that we've never taught
right.
in EMS.
Right. And so what is the basis of actually communicating with the physician? Now, we can do some FaceTime, and we can talk about telemetry medicine, right? Dr. Ratcliffe, we can do all of those things. But first of all, the paramedic who's doing the assessment has to understand what she or he is doing. What are they looking at? What are the key points of data? What is the key physical exam? Because one of the things we don't do in paramedicine, one of the things we don't do is we don't see chronic patients. So we see them when they go into the hospital. We rarely see them when they go home. So first of all, it's sometimes a thin line between what they look like when they came in and what they look like when they go home. So are they really improving? Are they really getting worse? And so those are some of the things that they really do need to learn. So they need time in the hospital. They need to see patients what they look like when they go home. They need time in a heart failure clinic. It's the #1 readmission across the whole country. And if you teach them the pathophysiology, the physical exam, the history, the interaction with the patient, and I will say this about the program in McKinney, and I don't know whether Chief Kistner is here today or anybody from McKinney. Oh, man. Okay. At any rate, if you talk to those guys, the patients get very attached to those paramedics almost immediately. And the model that they're working, they're still working with that, but the patient wants to see only her paramedic. They want to know, where's Brian Rother? I'm just saying. So those are the kinds of skill sets. Now, that's the uniform, to me, that's the uniform basis, whether it's urban or rural. And if you have a rural setting and you want to add some other skills about treatment and that sort of those truly advanced procedures, but what I believe is the core of this is not advanced procedures, but an advanced evaluation and understanding that treatment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Good morning, Mr. Walker.
Good morning, Mr. Jody. Eddie Walker with Life EMS Academy in El Paso. This is a wonderful thing, and at the workshop, after the workshop actually, I went back to El Paso and I started thinking about how I would want to implement a program like this and identify what that community's needs are. And out there in El Paso, it is obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular, stroke, and we have kids, and that's the area that I would really like to try to focus on, would be the kids, so that we can get those kids healthy and reduce that in the future. At the workshop, we had talked about baseline level of certification for this, and we had talked about, throwing out, well, why can't an EMT do it? Why can't an intermediate do it? Things like that. I was thinking about that, and at the risk of being shot, what I would say is that I think a minimum level should be a licensed paramedic. And the reason for that is because the education is supposed to teach us critical skill thinking. And that's a good place to start. This program needs advanced things like the advanced pharmacology like Kelly likes to teach. Nursing does really great care plans. And so something like that would be incorporated into that program. It's a good thing. I'm excited about it, and I'm working on seeing what I can do in implementing something like this in El Paso. The biggest question is finances. Where does that come from because of all the indigent patients that we do have out there in that area? It's a good thing. Continue on with it. If I can be a part of it and help in any kind of way, I'm more than willing to do that.
You will be a part of everybody has the opportunity, and you bring up an interesting point, is that we know that there's a lot of work ahead, and a lot of it's going to be definitions, defining who's doing what, because the needs in El Paso versus Dallas are going to be completely different. Somehow I think if with the help of all the brain trust in this room and other people who are not here today, I think in the end we have the opportunity to put out a great product that other states might start looking and saying, how did you guys do it? Thank you, Ed. Any other public comment?
Good morning. I'm Sam Vance. I'm the EMS for Children Program Manager. Just to follow up on what Mr. Walker said regarding the kids, just to let y'all know, if you're not already familiar, there is work beginning on community paramedic programs for children on the national level. Our program director, Dr. Manish Shaw, is actually involved with that. They just had a meeting within the last couple of weeks to start discussion on that to decrease the recidivism of children and their emergency department visits with things such as asthma, diabetes, childhood obesity. So I would ask that when you go forward with your program that please include the kids.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, do you want to plug what you've got going on?
Sure.
I know that you've got, because I got the email. I don't know if everybody got it.
Sure. Specifically next week is EMS week that I think you're all aware of. And this is the 30th anniversary of the National EMS for Children program. And we have done several things to help celebrate that. And I don't remember the dates off the top of my head. The next Monday, well, first of all, we had a contest to draw us a new logo. And I don't have that here because if you want to see it, you'll have to come up to Greenville next Monday evening at 6:30 because the young lady who drew it for us, her name is Reagan Olson with Hunt County EMS. And they are having a big community event that evening to include presenting her with her award for drawing us a new logo. They actually are going to have the Dallas Mavericks cheerleaders, the Dallas Mavericks mascot, and Dallas Mavericks are even providing a DJ for the event.
Now, where's this going to be?
That's up in Greenville.
Oh, okay.
So that's the main reason I'm going. Is just for all that. Anyway, so on Wednesday of EMS week is always EMS for Children Day, and I believe that's what you're specifically speaking of. We have received a gubernatorial proclamation of EMS for Children Day in Texas as May 21st. We will be presenting that on the south steps of the state capitol at 10:30 on Wednesday. I believe that's May 21st. And then Friday of EMS week, we are presenting our annual EMS for Children Crew of the Year Award. This year, the winners of that award is a crew from Marble Falls EMS and Horseshoe Bay Fire Department. And we'll be presenting that, and Jim is here, is that at 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock up at Horseshoe Bay. So everybody's welcome to attend any of those events.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Committee?
None. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on item 3? We will hopefully be tapping all the resources that we possibly can. This is huge. It is just huge, and it's going to take a lot of input from a lot of people, and we'll probably have to go back on the road again. But I think it's worthwhile to come to communities, and we'd love to do that to see what you're doing in your area that we can admire and put in the process. Steal, yeah, okay. Procure, find, to make this process work. Committee members, any comments on item 3? Dr. Villers, good morning. None? We have no action items. Next meeting date, probably July. Is that? I'm sorry? Yes. Committee, I know July 4th is not a good time.
What's a good time?
Yeah. 11th, 18th, 25th?
11?
I
We just, hey, we try to pick a date that 11th's out. 18th?
Good with the 18th?
18th? Laura?
Good.
18th? July 18th, TBA, 9 a.m. to 3 p.
Austin,
You want to use Austin?
yes.
Preferably.
Yes, my preference is Austin. We get, because of the flight arrangements and such, we get a much better participation if we meet here.
Yeah, we did.
And
We had about
we need-
23, 25 folks the last
And we
meeting,
need
so,
that
okay.
participation in this topic.
Got to, okay.
Chair, I'll work on a room. I'll work on trying to get a room for
Okay.
LRC.
Okay. More Than Like It Learning Resource Center, 9 to 3 p. here in Austin on Friday, July 18th. Good for everybody? Great. So, like I said, nothing will move forward GTAC. We will move the agenda item, and I apologize for Jake not being here today. I did not know he was not going to be here. He's been the lead along with Dr. Weller, and I know he has most of it, and I'll find out where, and we'll make sure that gets done on the 18th.
Exactly.
You all right now?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
She got it.
All right. We'll move the next, we'll move, unfortunately, I hate to do this, but we'll move both of these items to that meeting. Y'all, that's going to be a long day, as the last one was. I don't think we need any other agenda items. We don't have anything. I don't
lunch.
think anything. Yeah, we'll pack a lunch. And Dr. George, are you here?
No, she's not.
But you are. Charles, Jake, can you make sure she brings some more banana bread? Okay, thank you. I actually have a picture with Brian stealing it going out the door, but, you know, I'm going to post that picture too, Brian. Any announcements from the public? Leon Charpentier, good morning.
Good morning. Great looking group here this morning.
I don't even have my glasses on. Wait a minute. Okay.
Well, I skipped that, Jerry. I didn't wear my glasses. Anyway, Leon Charpentier from Integrated Trading Services. Something I just wanted to bring up again about AEMT is that I was very well aware of this transfer and all that kind of stuff like that because I've done 2 AEMT courses recently. And the confusion that we got to find out, maybe somebody can talk at this committee, some other committee, about legislation coming up. About, are we going to change that? Are we going to fix that? But nobody, I haven't heard anything about, because when you do an AEMT course, if everybody doesn't know that, they become an intermediate in Texas. There's no such thing as an AEMT in Texas. So if we're going to change the names of the levels in Texas, we've got to remember that if the people who, there's some EMTIs out there that are AEMTs in Texas, and there's some people out there that are the old EMTI 85s. So if we change it all to be AEMT, there's going to be some confusion through national of what their qualifications really are. So somewhere along the line, some committees can have to talk about that, and I wanted to bring that up, because maybe it should be this committee. Somebody needs to talk about that, because when I do an AEMT course, and they graduate, and they get an EMTI certificate from Texas, they go, why'd you make me do this class? Because that's where the state hasn't caught up with National Registry yet, or whatever the thing is. It's hard to explain that to people.
It is.
So, the legislation is coming in January, correct?
Yes.
So, we have to have something prepared. Is it going to come through GETAC in order to change it, what names we're going to change it to? I just like to get something out there so we start talking about it, notifying people when we get something about it.
Mr. on Cloud actually had a 9-point document that I've seen talking about that very thing, the transition, the courses, what it means if you're keeping your national, what it means if you're an 85, how will you transition up. If you're a 99, we add airway, and that makes it EMT. And that's why I'm really, really sorry he's not here today, because he did the bulk load of that work to present today. So yes, it's on the agenda and definitely July.
It's going to be on the education agenda?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out for sure.
absolutely.
Because we need to know what the state's got on their mind, what's going to happen in January. You know, instead of waiting till January to go, oh, what?
I think we can make that recommendation. Certainly what they do is going to be up to Joe and staff and legal and everything else. We can make the recommendation. Joe, any idea, and I know I'm putting you on the spot because we haven't talked about this, but any thought from the direction where this is going?
Yeah, this is legislation. This is opening up the EMS Act, basically 773. Yeah, 773. So we've had some minor discussion on it because there's other things that need to be fixed in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you always run the risk when you open up legislation, what happens next. So I can tell you that it is discussion right now. And I can't tell you what we're going to do.
Okay.
I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind that that's going to open up a big box with our legislators.
It will, and I think that's why Jay actually volunteered to take this on. And again, I apologize, Jay, if you're watching on TV, where are you? He actually gave me, it's a document with about 9 different items in it on how we can transition and what it means for each one. So hopefully I know the draft is done. I could present it, but I'd rather him do it because it was his.
Are we going to make this 9-point document available? Do we click on DHS someplace and get it?
As soon as we vet it and make it public in the July meeting, I had hoped to be able to do that today, but since he's not here, we can vet that one in July.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Jody, let me just say that I know it's been said to me repeatedly that we don't push legislation. When I say we, DSHS.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
We have to write the content, and we'll let somebody else push it, but DSHS has to write the content to go forth, so legal will be happy with it. So, yeah, got it. Jason, good morning. Justin, good morning.
Justin Boyd, chair of the RAC-A in Amarillo, and I don't know if you guys were made aware or saw the study that Texas Tech produced talking about rural availability of paramedics in frontier areas. For us, that is at the cornerstone of what we're battling when you talk about going up through the Texas Panhandle, down through Midland and stuff like that. The education requirements are there. I'm not going to gripe about those. I'm not going to throw stones at them. I'm not going to cast concerns. But guys, we have services that are closing. We're dropping services in Texas. We're responding helicopters to nursing homes for the 911 call. Okay, mom and pop organizations that we talked about yesterday in the RAC chair meeting, in which the staff is 5 people and they are all 55 years old and they volunteer because they want to do something for their community. And now the AMT class is 8 months long, 2 nights a week, every other Saturday, to volunteer. People are not doing that anymore. Okay, so now for the battle that we waged and talked about for years, we're seeing in now our programs, there's only 33 accredited paramedic programs in the state of Texas. Where we live, we went from 3 programs to 1. We're graduating 12 paramedics with a 60% pass rate in trauma service area A. We're not producing enough paramedics to take care of our people. Okay, we are flying stable hip fractures 30 miles in an airplane. Okay, we hear what you guys say, but I'm here talking for where I live in Texas and up there. We're running out of services. Okay, no EMS is available. It's not an essential service. Don't want to go down that conversation. Don't want to have that conversation. But if you look at the study that Texas Tech produced, this is not something that's just going to stop. This is going to continue. We're going to run out of EMS in rural areas if we don't start addressing it. So you can look at delegated practices. We're going to have EMT basics, starting IVs, and intubating people. That wasn't the intent when we talked about accreditation and where we wanted to go with this state. But the reality is that's where we're headed. So MyRAC, when I talk about Trauma Service Area A, MyRAC would like to charge this group. You guys look at what Texas Tech produced. Give us your thoughts on it. And let's work together to try to find something that's going to work for tomorrow, because right now, we in Trauma Service Area A have lost 2 services, and we've got 5 more on the list. Go ahead.
Can you send me that study? I would like to review it.
It was actually on DSHS's webpage.
It is?
Is
Okay.
where I found it the last time I was in Austin.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. Absolutely.
I would appreciate it. When you talk about what's going on with the Air Medical Committee, and I know Joe's working on this for clinical rotations outside the state of Texas, we've been begging for that for 2 years. It's in the education. We've asked, guys, I'm disseminating this information that's coming to me to bring to you all the way down here in Austin. I mean, we have people that, they're no longer concerned. We have people that are scared, truly scared, because nobody's going to come pick them up. We don't have the education programs in place. There's no money for the institutions to become accredited. We have created a system where I live where we have a competitive bid process for the paramedic. We wanted to increase rates and wages that paramedics get paid. That's great. We've achieved that where I live. Just to give you an example, 1-year paramedic, first graduated, hasn't had a job, starting salary, hospital-based service, $70,000. Okay, that does not compete with our municipalities of 2,000 people that don't have any money. Now it comes down to let's follow the money. Who's got the most is winning. That's not what we wanted to create in Texas, and congratulations, we did.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Jeff McDonald from Tarrant County College. I just have a question. What happened to the 60-hour thing?
Yeah.
Did we ever do anything with that other than let it go up in smoke? Because I know there's a lot of people kind of waiting to find out what this committee will get with the coordinating board and kind of see what we can solve with our cap on the associate degrees.
The Education Committee approved the letter to go to GETAC. The letter went to GETAC. GETAC unanimously voted to move that letter forward and approved it. For whatever reason, that letter was sent to the GETAC chair for approval, and for whatever reason, I found out this morning that letter has not moved. We approved it, GETAC approved it. I was told that part of it was a piece of language in the letter that someone wanted to change because they wanted to make sure the coordinating board knew what GETAC was. My response to that was, everybody who needs to know, everyone who will get that letter knows what GETAC is. It's like explaining ACLS to a paramedic. Got it, you don't have to explain it. But that letter is with DSHS, and I think the chair of GETAC, I think they wanted, maybe not dishes, but I think the chair of GETAC wanted to make a change to it. I know that I have been bombarded by people in this room and some other people who have asked me, where's the letter? I said, it was approved last, February. It was approved in the February meeting to go out, to be posted on the website so that all the colleges and universities can use it because a lot of them are running out of time. And that letter has to be posted rather quick. And in my conversations this morning, I had asked a couple of people if they could do whatever they could to get that letter out ASAP, because it should have been out in February, because people are waiting to make curriculum changes that if they don't have to make, that letter will keep them from doing it, or if they want to make it, that letter supports them making it.
Jody, I can give you an update that as of 8/28/49 this morning, it was approved by the chair, and it'll be posted it's already posted up. It takes about 2 hours to get onto our website. So it'll be up before 10 o'clock this morning.
Thank you very much.
Somewhere around there.
Thank you.
I'm still Eddie Walker. I'm still from Lafayette. Still from El Paso. I've just got a few things. Okay. One, about the shortage of paramedics. I think every single person in this room would agree with that. I got a request yesterday from a service that's about 150 miles to the east of me, asking if I would coordinate a paramedic class for them because they don't have any kind of a program around there. If there's any way at all that I can possibly do that, I want to because it is so desperately needed. It was brought up about the Air Medical Committee and the out-of-state rotations. And I just want to take a moment and say thank you to the Air Medical Committee for continually putting on their agenda for that, and shame on the EMS Education Committee for not doing that. That I think is something that should have been on every meeting to ask the state what the update on that was. We finally got an update yesterday that the state is moving forward. We're real hopeful and positive that something's going to happen so that we're going to be able to send students out of states to be able to do rotations in the near future. But I think that the committee should have stayed on that and continually asked that at every single meeting as an agenda item. Second thing is that I would like the committee to take a real hard look at your makeup. There's something like 7 colleges, 2 fire departments, a physician, a medical director office on there, and there are no private EMS education programs on this committee. And it's not for lack of applying, because I apply every single year. And when the strategic planning occurs, I've encouraged GETAC to take a look at that and make sure that every single aspect of education in Texas is adequately represented on every single committee. Third thing, the paramedic psychomotor competency package. Anybody familiar with that? 1, 2, 3. Okay. I was hoping that there would be more that would be familiar with that, because it looks like something that may be coming down the pipe from the National Registry as far as skills testing for our paramedic students, and it is a drastic change from what we are currently doing.
Yes, it is.
And so that's something that I would ask the committee to be tasked with. Take a look at this psychomotor competency package, how it's going to impact the education of paramedics in Texas, and what can we do right now to start moving in that direction so that when the National Registry does say this is the date that this is going to occur, we're ready for it and we don't have to scramble to try to get ready for it.
Eddie, before you walk away, let me, 2 things. Number one, thank you for your thoughts and comments about the makeup of the committee. I really appreciate that. Number 2 is that the thought process of you not being able to do clinicals outside, and I'm going to take issue with that publicly, Eddie, because several people on this committee have been to the state, have been to other people to try to help you. It's not something we felt like needed to be on an agenda item, and something that we felt like we might be able to get more traction by not having it on an agenda item for each one. So to say that this education committee has not been supportive of you trying to get clinicals outside of Texas. If you remember, we came to El Paso to help you with accreditation, and part of that was to find out what the issues were to keep that from happening. And I can tell you at least 3 members of this committee have met with the former and present staff at DISHES to ask what's the holdup. I have had a meeting with Mr. Jansky personally asking, tell me why we can't. Tell me why we can't. And we have had those meetings. So to say that this committee's done nothing, that's not true.
Well, Jody, I appreciate all the effort that folks have taken for that, but whenever that information is not given out at the meetings, then it is like nothing has been done about that. And remember, at the workshop you talked about follow-up, following through, holding DSHS's feet to the fire about things. Well, we just want to do this with the committees also.
You know, and for transparency, which is always important, but, you know, sometimes if I'm able to have a hall meeting or a quick meeting with someone, it's not something that's going to be on an agenda item. And until we can get some answers from them, because many times we pose questions that they either can't or are not able to answer at that moment, I can bring that back to you. But if I keep bringing it back to you with hold on, it makes it seem like we haven't done anything. So part of the work, I think, publicly and privately, is to get you some answers, and when we get them, but I'm just telling you, and people up here can shake their head, is that there have been several discussions on why, because from my standpoint, why not? Okay, why can't you, and if you remember, we talked about the 5-state region, and then the discussion went, why limit it to 5 states? If you have a buddy in New York that says your students can go to New York and do clinicals, why not? Okay, why not? This committee has been very supportive of people being able to do clinicals as long as the relationship's there and as long as the legalities are met. Don, are you here? Nope. Mr. Jansky and I have met several times over this, trying to figure out the answer. And there's some legalese that he said he needed to go check. So I'm just telling you, sometimes things will happen that we're not going to tell you until we have an answer. But to think that this committee either openly, privately, didn't help you, and Eddie, to be honest, this is the second time I've had you say something in public that this committee didn't help you. One was at the Health and Human Services Commission in Austin, and that was just not true, because when Jeff McDonald, myself, Lori, many of us made that trip to El Paso to help you, sometimes you may not get the answer you wanted, but we came to help.
Well, Jody, I can take no for an answer. I can take we are working on it for an answer. What I don't like is no answer whatsoever. And all I'm asking is that whenever an issue is brought to this committee, that in the future meetings, even if it's not on the agenda, that something is mentioned about it, just so everybody has an update on it, even if it hasn't moved anywhere. That's all.
You know, and Eddie, we can do that, but sometimes it's something that affects one person, or it's an answer for one person. So to bring that back to the committee, if I can answer a question in the hall, or any committee member can answer a question in the hall, would you agree that that would also be a workable solution?
Absolutely, it would be.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I'll just give you a little update on what is happening. As I did at the Air Committee meeting yesterday, 2 things are happening nationally. The first one is that there is an EMS compact being circulated. Ms. Don, our attorney, and myself will be attending a meeting in Chicago later in June, which is very similar to the the nurses compact that's already out there, but it's going to be an EMS compact. That's 2 years, 3 years away. I mean, the document's done, but for us to get it into the legislation session, we would need it right now, and it's not quite there yet. So hopefully in a couple of years, you know, you'll hear a whole lot more about it, and we'll have to get some legislation passed and those kind of things. There's been ongoing meetings between myself and surrounding states about this clinical back and forth. The clinical ride-alongs, the whole 9 yards. From an EMT standpoint or first responder, it's not an issue. The issue becomes that paramedic or the intermediate, when you break the skin, you do some advanced skills, that becomes the issue, the liability, all of those things. We are in agreement, the surrounding states, that we want to make this happen because they have the same needs as we do here in Texas, that we want to be able to, especially up in the Panhandle and some other areas where it might be closer to go into New Mexico or up to Oklahoma than it is to some institutions right in Texas here. We're meeting on June 1st and 2nd in Mississippi. All the southern states are meeting, and one of the topics for that meeting is this. And what it's going to require is a formal MOU between states. So we want to work out the details, the state directors, and make sure we're all on the same page, and we've had 2 conference calls on it so far, before we go through the whole legal process of putting an MOU in place, because that will have to go up through, I'm assuming, up through the governor's office and all that. So a lot of stuff is happening, but it's all behind the scenes right now. There's not a whole lot of report. It's taking time, it's crossing the T's and it's dotting the I's. And it's no fault of this committee or the air committee. It's just it's something that we have to work from our office.
And I think some of us know that. Joe, it might behoove all of us, and I know we hate to add a component to anything, but as you and I have talked in the corner and phone and email and whatever, about trying to get certain things done that we don't put out till it's done because there are too many just little pieces trying to get it done. It might be worth having you, and we add a line item if the committee chair, if the GETAC chair will let us. Just a quick, this is update from Joe. I mean whatever, because a lot of the stuff that sometimes some people are privy to, but we're asked to just hold on because we're working on it. I got it. I certainly understand that. And that might help some of Eddie's needs too, to say, hey, just get back, talk, whatever. We don't like to leave anything out there, but again, some of these issues, for a lot of people, it might only affect 2 or 3 schools, 2 or 3 people. Doesn't mean that they're any less important. They aren't. In fact, sometimes those are the major issues, because if we can solve those, it takes care of a much larger region. So I know I can't communicate everything I hear, but you might be able to come in and give us an update and tell us what we can hear.
I'm at all your meetings, so if you want to put on the agenda, I'll just make sure I give you an update at each meeting on what's happening last.
Eddie, would that be helpful for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, I will add. I'll ask Vance to add that, and if he
not a problem.
Okays it. Keep in mind too, when we send agenda items in, again, GETAC chair has to approve those before they move, and they have to go 30 days in advance. So there we are. Jane, good morning.
Good morning.
Excuse me, just a moment, if I may.
Go ahead.
Pardon me. So, as you're working those MOUs between states, please know that those states are sending students into Texas and are continuing to compete with Texas programs for clinical sites.
Sure, and we're aware of it. There's 2 ways of doing things. We could be hard-nosed, or we can cooperate and work with people. And I just find it's a whole lot easier that sometimes things happen that are happening, and let's see if we can get to the end result, and let's get everybody legal. How was that politically sounding? Pretty good.
Jane?
Is this thing on?
No. Yes.
Okay. Jane Dinsmore, PERCOM Online, PERCOM Kilgore College Consortium. And Joe and I talked some about this, and the hope on our end is that this will be a fluid nature between states before it's over, that we can all work together and play on the same playing field and kind of help each other all directions. But one of the things that I wanted to mention is that COAMPS, in the last set of standards and interpretations that they put forth for approval, I don't think it's run all the way through the process yet, but they have added wording requiring paramedic programs who are accredited, who have students rotating in states other than the ones in which their base license is or whatever, is that you have to have an agreement with physician in that state. And in preparation for that, we also have been taking steps with our medical director to get him licensed in several states. And our medical director is pretty cool in that he's already on his own getting his licenses back in a couple of states that he was previously licensed in. Since he was colonel in the Air Force, he kind of travels a lot. But just for 5 states, just to kind of keep this in mind, if that's going to be an issue with some of these states, or with KCAP and COAMPS, that you're going to have a position just for 5 states to get him licensed. So far I've spent almost $15,000. And it's a process that takes months, varying times with each of these states. So in understanding that and how this is being addressed with the compacts and whether or not this is, and then also taking into account what COAMPS and KF are going to say, whether or not that goes all the way through, that's an issue that each of the programs that does have students rotating in other states needs to be aware of, that either you're going to have an agreement potentially with a physician that's already licensed in that state, or your medical director is going to have to be willing to step out, and that's going to cost. And for us, it was a big financial hit, but in preemptive, we've started that process because we felt like it was necessary for us to continue to play with everyone that we need as far as the students who come to us asking for our program to help them. And so I wanted to bring that out there because it is a very, very real expense and part of this issue. And my understanding from talking to Joe, and also I've had some feedback from some folks, that some states are also, you know, some states are okay with it as long as you have this, that some states are not okay unless the program is completely licensed in that state. And there's just a lot of variations from state to state that have to be worked out. And I appreciate the fact that Joe has an open mind and is trying to help work to make this something that's going to work for as many programs or all the programs and the students that are involved. So I wanted to bring that. The other thing I wanted to remind you as far as conversations with Don Jansky and the things go is, and I'm sure that Joe wasn't here when we said this last time, is that as far as legislative rules are basically designed to tell you what you can't do, what you can do. So our particular argument in this whole thing has been from the beginning is that there's nothing in rule that says you can't do this. It's just been an interpretation of, oh, you just can't do that. But now that we're taking steps to solve this problem, I think that will go by the wayside as we go, because we're solving it hopefully on a multi-state or actual national level is what I'm hoping for. So. Okay.
Thank you, Jane. Any other public comment? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Becky Brock from Austin Community College. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'd like to agree with a lot of the things that have been stated today. First of all, we were talking about initial education at the paramedic level. With regard to community paramedic and advanced paramedic. And one of my peers stated quite correctly that assessment and pathophysiology are very important in those items. I would also like to suggest that initial education is probably where that belongs.
Step just a little bit further back so we can hear you. Sorry.
That's okay. Initial education is where those items belong. One of the things that's going to help us is the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, the letter that was posted this morning. Thank you so much. Because it's going to give us the time to do that. We need the time to do that. And if we fight for that time with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and request from our colleges, and I am speaking from a college level, for those waivers, then we'll have the time that we need to teach our students assessment and pathophysiology. And then those certificates, perhaps, those advanced certificates that will come later, perhaps they won't be quite so lengthy because they will have the initial education that they need. With regard to National Registry, 2016 is coming very quickly, and our portfolios are going to need to be ready. There are a couple of classes, if you're not aware, at the college level, again, pardon me for speaking to the college level, WECM has, and those are emergency procedure courses. There's emergency procedure course 1 and 2, and we fought long and hard to make sure those were not sunsetted. They are still there and in the inventory so that they can be used. They're really good for the AEMT level, and they're just as good at the paramedic level to get your students their portfolios ready and get them ready also for the assessments that they're going to have to do at the end. The last thing I want to speak to is the name changes, and I believe what our director is trying to say out loud so that everybody can hear is that Dishes is not going to be able to speak to those name changes. It's going to have to come from the committee, and I know letters have been sent speaking to those items as early as last fall and probably even before that. So my hope is that the committee will take that on when legislation opens again. Any questions?
Questions, Ms. Brock? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I got one more question.
You had your chance. He's going to steal the mic. Is there security here?
What's the range on that thing?
Hi, still Jeff McDonald, Tarrant County College, I think. Things change so fast around here, you never know. I seem to remember something about us having to work on an education rule, but I don't ever remember doing any of that. Did that get missed somewhere?
Huh?
Okay, maybe I just dreamt it. Wasn't there supposed to be some work on an education rule to look at some of the language in there and?
Yes.
We did that in 2012, didn't we, Laura? Yeah.
I remember some
2012.
stuff getting going. I don't remember anything ever finishing with it. Did it ever get done?
So we're in the process right now of reviewing all the rule input from all the committees, and there is a draft rule being developed in the office. You should see it first draft around next GTAC. There's a ton of changes in it.
You know what, Jeff, now that you bring that up, and Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, we finished gap analysis with EMS committee and medical directors in the year before last.
Yep.
Have we heard anything from that either? Because I know that went to GTAC, was approved and forwarded.
So I'm assuming, and I'm going to look at Phil. Thank you. There was a document provided to me, that big spreadsheet. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about when they're saying the gap analysis in the rules.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
It's the short answer, yeah.
Yeah. So I do have that, and
Okay.
and we're addressing it in the rules. I can tell you that we're through 11, and we're through the definitions, and we're looking at some of the other areas. But you should see something later.
As long as you have it, because I know we finished it and moved it forward. Just want to make sure that you have it.
And we'll confirm outside of here to make sure that we have the lays. If we don't, I'll get back to you or something like that.
I just remember that was one of the last things Maxie said to me before he abandoned ship. When you finish this.
Yeah, well, I can assure you it's the first thing that Jane said to me when I took on the ship is, get it done, Schmieder.
Well, we still have a little bit of work to do on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole process will be similar to what we did with the rules for Senate Bill 8. Was, what I was initially was going to put together a committee, let's do this, but whenever you have a committee, that's how you have camels today. That was really a new design of a horse. So, we're kind of building it internally right now, and then I'm going to take it out.
No, we got called
Camel. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to take it out statewide to get input, and we'll keep tweaking it at that time to make it better before we actually introduce the packet. So,
as long as you have all of the stuff that's coming up, we just want to make sure
verify that we have it. But there will be an ample opportunity for everyone to have input into it.
Okay. Any other public comment? Going once? Going twice?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a clarification question?
Absolutely.
Is our Amarillo colleague still in the room? Were you talking about the assessment of rural West Texas EMS by the F. Murray Hall Institute for Rural and Community Health?
He looks bewildered.
I'm a doctor, so I love studies, right? And I love to
Jody
myth-bust,
and
too.
maybe Jeff. Hadn't got it yet?
Well, haven't checked on it.
Well, I tried to in the back of the room, but it was a study produced by Texas State University. I found it on DSHS's website. You want to think about it?
No.
Was it the needs assessment, the assessment of the status of EMS in rural West Texas? Okay.
Got it, right here. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's, you're tugging at my heartstrings because, I grew up in Lubbock and that's where I cut my teeth as a baby paramedic. And I was very flustered when you were talking earlier, not about what you were saying, but by my angst. And this is not as much a study, I think, as a critical assessment of the situation out there. And right, when there's more tumbleweeds than ambulances, it's always a concern. I just wanted to state that I think we have a mission to improve, from an educational standpoint, the availability of EMS providers in those regions. But we have to make sure that we're in tune also with the reality of the other pulls, whether it be financial, whether it be distance, whether it be legislative restrictions on junior college territories. Maybe that's an area that we can make a difference. I don't know. But, this is truly multifactorial.
And I agree 100%.
It's very sad, I agree.
That's why I think it needs to be addressed. Yeah, I don't think it's a solution. I mean, it's just like Jody said that, you're going to look at some things that you don't have a time limit on, that you're going to make sure you get it right. And that's precisely what we're asking. I think if you want me to speak personally about what I think what Texas did in accreditation and how we're moving forward, we're still trying to develop what are we going to call it, an advanced EMT intermediate, but yet we've already adopted the fact that we're going to be AEMT. At some point, personally speaking, we may have put that cart out there before we put the horse up. And that's exactly what I want us to address and try to fix, because I think we created some issues that we could have sat down and talked about and prevented before they happened, and it didn't happen. And I don't know if it's because you didn't try. I'm not saying you didn't try. It's not for me to cast a stone, but we are where we are today. So that means that we can only fix what we have today. And that's what I'm asking this group to do, is at least address it. Let's formulate an opinion. And it's just like Jody said, this room is full of educated people. We can come up with a solution, but we can't just leave it underneath that desk.
I think one of the decisions, Justin, that we have to look at, and I really hate that Jay is not here today, because part of EMTI/AEMT 85-99 is we've got to figure out in Texas which one we're going to be.
Who are we?
Yeah, we have to figure out, if we don't go AEMT and we stay intermediate, that's fine, but we've got to figure out as a state where we're going to be. So this is going to take some time, whether we change a name, all of them, whatever, and it's certainly on the agenda. So yeah. Any other public comment? Committees?
Jody?
Yes.
I just want to publicly thank Dr. Villers, San Antonio UT, for their support to the office and to a paramedic program that had a little problem in the state, and he stepped in and took over to a strong leadership, and we now have new paramedics in Texas, and I just want to publicly thank you for that.
Great job. Thank you. We'll move item 1, 2, and 3 forward to continue on those. Part of that, Justin, will be looking at AEMT in the state, so we can actually incorporate those in. Summary, we have no items to move forward. Bless you, bless you, and bless you. We've had announcements. We've got things for the next meeting. We've got our meeting date.
Yes.
Okay, we're good. And you'll get us a room at some point.
Correct. It will not be at the LRC. There's no rooms available, so I'm working on our public safety training center right now. I'm texting back and forth with my assistant.
No LRC. I'd already written that down. All right. Thank you, sir. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.